Well. It is UFC time again, and my microphone is being a little off center right now. One moment. There you go. And this card is not very good. This is y- I I need to look at where it is because it looks like a UFC Apex card. It is. Look at that. We're going back to the Apex. It is what it is. It's not very good. Let's roll on here. That being said, there are some fights I have a little bit of interest in here, like Calvin Cater versus Yusuf Zalal. That's kind of interesting. I like Yusuf Zalal. I like what he's putting together. I like that he looks different every time out. Like he's putting together like new things and evolving as a fighter, and I'm excited to see that. Even if he's fighting, a guy who, let's be honest, has gotten a little bit old. And then other than that, what else is good on this card? I'm always here for an Angela Hill fight. Let's go. Rafael Estevan versus Jesus Aguilar. That might be really reasonably fun. Gabriel Bonfim versus Chaos Williams. That's a fun fight. Ishmael Bonfim is also on the card against Nazim Sadikov. That's a fun fight. But, well, okay. And actually, Elijah Smith is kind of an interesting prospect. He's fighting Vince Morales. That also should be pretty fun as well. But the rest of the card, not really. There's a relevant 135-pound fight here in the women's division that is opening up the card despite being a battle between two UFC ranked fighters and like the only fight with two ranked fighters on the card. And that is stupid. Don't get me wrong. We're going to get to that last, but Cavalcante versus Avila is not a fight I'm looking forward to. That being said, if you're going to make bantamweight a thing, if you're going to improve this division, you need to feature it. You need to inspire young ladies around the world that are roughly in that 135-pound size region that MMA is a thing for them, and stop burying their fights on the undercard. And to be clear here, as much as I'm not looking forward to Avila versus Cavalcanti, it's an important fight, and it's not like I'm looking forward to much of the main card. Like if you look at this 5-fight or 6-fight main card, okay, well, I talked about Zalal Cater being a fairly positive one, and I'm looking forward, a little bit to Balmfine versus Sadikov. But my dudes, we have Edmund Shabazian versus Dylan Budka, Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petrovsky, which I don't hate either of those fighters. I don't like that combination. So I don't know, that could stay. And Jose Delgado versus Connor Matthews on the main card. You can make room. You can do some things and actually make room to put Angela Hill on the main card and to put a ranked bantamweight fight. Yes, I know bantamweight is the worst division in the UFC by a long shot, but you can find the ability to put those two fights on the main card. You can ditch Delgado Matthews. You can ditch Shabazian Budka. Let's be 100% honest with that. Okay, let's get into the fights. Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues, the Hobo Cop, in the main event. This is an age question. Cannonier is 40 years old, almost 41. He's like 40 in 10 months or something like that. Cannonier is 32, or Rodrigues is 32 years old. They look the opposite directions because Hobo Cop is old looking for his age and kind of always has been. And Cannonier looks younger than he is. That's essentially what it comes down to with those two. It's a fight that I would have picked Cannonier to win pretty easily back in the day. I mean, Cannonier is a guy who fought for the title, had a long run. He's been a ranked fighter for a really long time, super strong. Not the deepest technical fighter or anything like that, but like by middleweight standards, a guy who actually had some ability to adapt to things and was actually a pretty solid athlete. Reasonably fast, reasonably powerful, very strong, hard to take down, good anti-wrestler, all that jazz. Kind of like for the longest time was really only losing to the best guys in the world at 85 pounds. This is a guy who, lost to Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya. And then that was about it. He beat David Branch, Anderson Silva, granted the ghost of Anderson Silva. And then Jack Hermanson, Kelvin Gastelum, Derek Brunson, Sean Strickland, Marvin Vittori. This is a good run. And sadly that Vittori fight was probably the best one of his career. And then he loses to Imovov and Kyle Bahayo and just kind of it's cruel because it looked like he really put everything together and then just got old. And that's basically the question here, is that Hobocop will not do anything remotely resembling what Imavov or Bohaio did. They both ran a pretty control oriented, defensively sound striking game that made Cannonier chase them a little bit, punished him for doing so, worked on attrition and so on. And it's not what Hobocop does. Hobocop is far more chaotic, hyper aggressive as a striker and a grappler. It leaves him with a bad control game as a grappler, and it leaves him with a defensively open to getting smashed in the face game as a striker. So does that beat Jared Cannonier currently? And I am going to go with no. I have questions about Cannonier. He's getting a little bit slower. He's getting a little bit more hurtable. His reactions are down. He's old. That's what it comes down to. He is everything that we know Father Time starts to take away from fighters. But Rodrigues is just going to kind of like try to bring chaos to him, try to bring a lot of aggression to him. And I think he can still handle that. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if Hobocop blows him out of the water. I'm not. Cannonier's 40. He's one of 2 fighters on this card that are 40. That is old by MMA standards. But I do think that like a structureless game that is going to just try to match physicality with physicality against Cannonier actually probably is still not a path to victory. Wouldn't surprise me if it is, but I'm not picking it. So I got Jared Cannonier by decision. I'm picking against Father Time. I'm ready for a Reaper to claim another one. But I don't know. It feels like a matchup that he can still win. And he's the underdog here, plus 175 to plus 190. I like that. I'll bet on that. Believe me, I wouldn't have touched him in favor odds. And Rodrigues is minus 225 to minus 245. Calvin Kattar versus Yusuf Zalal is another example of like the same dynamic where like at their primes, at their best, and we may not have even seen the best of Zalal, but like to date, the best we've seen of Kattar and the best we've seen of Zalal, Kattar would win. He is a good boxer. He used to be actually a pretty decent anti-wrestler. He will work volume. He will work defensive ideas. He will work really good counter ideas. But like everything that was good about him is in retrograde. It's falling down. And yes, he has lost to only very good fighters. We're talking former champions in Aljamain Sterling and Max Holloway. We're talking Josh Emmett. We're talking Arnold Allen. Like these are amazing fighters. But we also have to look at the wins. And it's not that beating Jeremy Stevens, Dan Ige, and Giga Chikadze are bad by any means, but it was the ghost of Jeremy Stevens in 2020. It was Dan Ige, and then even the Giga fight, taking advantage of Giga's like problems, like injuries and time are taking their toll on Calvin Kattar. He is 36 years old and a guy who has taken a lot of punishment over his career. And if you look at the things that got Allen, Emmett, Holloway, and not so much Emmett. We could probably agree. We could probably ignore Emmett. And we could probably annoy Arnold Allen. It's really the Max Holloway and Aljamain Sterling fights that, while they are both bigger stars and far better fighters than Zalal, he has the right tools. He does have a strong body lock wrestling game. He does have a good range kickboxing game. He does have the ability to turn up the pace. He does have the ability to adapt to things and get stronger as a fight goes on and figure out some things and keep things in a constant state of like flux and change and so on. And who's in his athletic prime with speed and explosiveness. And he's been really, 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 really good lately. And that's kind of the thing, is that where Rodrigues represents a style of fight that I think Cannonier can still win, because it's not considered, it's not game planned, it's not meshed well, it's not deep. Zalal is. And yes, beating Billy Quarantillo, Giorno Aarons, and Jack Shore, None of those prepare you for Calvin Kattar. None of those are on Calvin Kattar's level. But I am picking Zalal to make that step forward. I do think Kattar is not done per se, but done as a ranked fighter. And I think Zalal is going places. And I'm a sucker for a fighter who comes back to the UFC after being cut, not re-signed, whatever the case may be, puts together some new stuff on the regional scene and really gets better. I appreciate that a ton. So I am going to go with Zalal by decision. I think Kattar is still durable enough to go 3 rounds. And Zalal is minus 450 to minus 500. Now that's a little steep. That is steep. That is steep. I wouldn't bet on that. Kattar plus 333 to plus 380. I would be tempted to bet on that. I didn't do my usual betting speech, actually. I should do that before I go any further. I'm going to talk about what I'm betting on. I'm going to be giving you information you can use for betting purposes. I don't even think you shouldn't. That being said, MMA is a sport that if you're betting on with the idea of turning it into a steady slurm of income and life-changing money and financial freedom, do not. It is none of those things. It is a little bit of extra spice that you could have a fun time with. That is all it is. Kattar plus 333 to plus 380. Dylan Budka versus Edmen Shahbazyan. I have very, very, very little to say about this one. Budka is way below UFC standards. He would kick my butt. He would beat me into a bleeding pulp. I want to be clear on that. But by the standards of a UFC fighter, he is bad. He is offensively just not really there. It's kind of trundling forward into wrestling exchanges, or it's sitting at range throwing like really bad power shots and not really hitting anything. And neither of those options really win because, like, in the wrestling department, he's kind of small for middleweight, even though he has a hard time making middleweight, which I have 2 theories on that, basically, and one has to be right. Number 1 is that he's not cutting weight properly in a healthy manner and effectiveness. And then option 2 is we have a biochemistry problem here where his body is just like too dense to really cut the weight effectively because at 6 feet tall, like 6 feet tall at middleweight, that's fine. That's not a problem. But he cannot manhandle people at all. Like even his Contender Series fight was horrible. I have no idea why he's here. I have no idea why he's on the main card. He is fighting Edmen Shahbazyan. Yes, Edmen Shahbazyan can absolutely torch his own game and combust, and he is a front runner and a bully, but I think he can do the front runner bully thing and just finish Budka. That's the issue. I have no idea why this is on the main card. I have no idea why this is high up, considering Budka is coming off a loss to Andre Petroski, who is lower on this card. Anyways, Shahbazyan, TKO. He's minus 375 to minus 400. Budka plus 280 to plus 300. Sounds about right, but I'm not betting on Shahbazyan at favorite odds. I'm staying away from that. He's an unreliable fighter, but yeah, the way he loses this fight is if he loses this fight. You know what I mean? It would have very, very little to do with what Budka's doing. Ismail Bonfim, the first of our Bonfim brothers, against Nazim Sadikov. This is interesting. This is the first fight that has me really, really perked up for both guys. Bonfim is pretty good. He's got a pretty deep technical game. He's got all the physical things that you would want to see in a fighter. He's just kind of got the full package, except for the fact that he seems very unable to fight at range. And it's confusing to me because it's normally with people who can't fight at range, it's because they lack the literal technical basis for it. You know, the strong jab game, the intros into the pocket, the kicking game, etc. He has all of these things, but he just seems definitively unable to put them into application at range. It's a bit weird. I wonder if it's maybe an eyesight issue. Be an interesting thought. I just had that thought right now. And then Sadikov is jack of all trades, master of none. Good counter-punching game, good power, good wrestler, good grappler. Nothing great. Nothing shines through. But all the little ingredients to being a good fighter are there. And it's just a matter of him figuring out which of his kind of good traits can be used to overpower a weakness in the opponent. That is essentially what he needs to do here, which means he needs to fight a range game. That being said, I don't think he has the size to do it. I think he's 5 foot, he's 5'10", 69 inches. And it's not like that's something he's great at. A lot of his things involve aggression, moving into the pocket, moving into the clinch. Areas in which his wrestling can impact the fight. So I'm not trusting him to take a game plan that probably could work against Bonfim and apply it. And as a result, I got to have Bonfim by decision. I see this going the distance. I see it being a good fight. I think Sadakov's going to have a lot of good moments. I think we're going to learn a lot about both fighters. And I don't want to call them prospects because they're 29 and 30 years old, respectively. Bonfim is the younger of the two. But I'm looking forward to this. This is probably my fight of the night. And then on the odd side of things, Bonfim is a minus 218 to minus 225 favorite. Sadikov plus 170 to plus 180. Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petroski. I have very, very little to say about this one too. You have two grapplers. You have two guys who only win by grappling, basically. There's not really a striking game to discuss from either guy. They both throw hard, but they do not throw with any kind of like ideas that this is a winning platform. And in Petroski's case, you have a guy who has kind of been out grappled by all the good, like even semi good grapplers he has faced. He is the grappler who grapples dudes who can't grapple. I know I said grapple way too much in that sentence. But he's lost to GM3. He's lost to Jacob Malkoun. He's, lost to Michel Pehe, although Pehe has a bit of a different story there. He lost to Brian Battle. Did he lose to GM3? Why do I think he lost to GM? No, he beat GM3, right? Okay, I guess that would be the argument. But he went to split decision with GM3. And I'm kind of stuck having to go with Rodolfo Vieira. If you're going to grapple with a world champion BJJ guy and that's your only path to winning, and the only guy who's giving you kind of like a model to beat this is Fluffy Hernandez, and Andre Petroski does not have the basic thing that makes Fluffy Hernandez work, which is an indomitable will and cardio. No. So Vieira, submission, he's minus 260 to minus 278. Petroski plus 205 to plus 225. It could go the distance, but I just don't even know what a Petroski win looks like against Vieira. Jose Delgado versus Connor Matthews. Another fight I have very little to say about. I have my doubts about Jose Delgado. I think he's a little bit reckless, a little bit self-destructive, but he does seem to be a fairly reasonable athlete, fairly explosive, and fairly wow factor, even though he's been battling cans mostly. Connor Matthews has been can crushing and having competitive moments with them. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate Connor Matthews' heart, his determination. I appreciate a lot about the guy, but he's built a game that I don't want to say is an athlete's game because it's not, but it's a game that's designed to win at athletic parity while being a sub UFC level athlete. And that is not going to work in any way, shape, or form. So I got Delgado by TKO. He's a minus 400 to minus 420 favorite. I wouldn't really mess with that betting line, honestly. And Matthews plus 300 to plus 320. Wouldn't touch it. Delgado is a little bit too unproven for my taste, but I have no faith in Matthews. So, we'll just watch the fight and enjoy. Angela Hill versus Ketlin Souza. I am taking Angela Hill. So I backed one oldie. I backed one youngster, and now I'm backing another oldie. The reason I say this is because if you look at the people who historically have beaten Angela Hill, and that the result has not been a razor close split decision that frankly Hill should have won, it is people who can either overpower her in the clinch or overpower her at range. And I'm not sure what either of those is in terms of Ketlin Souza. Ketlin Souza is a capable clinch fighter. She's a capable range fighter. She's actually pretty well rounded, all things considered, but she's not a phenomenal athlete. She doesn't overpower anyone anywhere. Even on the regional scene, she was winning by scrapping it out with people, kind of grinding it out, kind of, doing her thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate that. There's a lot there. There's room for that in this division. But you're going to play Angela Hill's game with Angela Hill? You might win because Angela Hill does lose a lot of split decisions, but I'm going to go with Hill. I'm going to go with a split. You know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say it's going to be a split decision. And they're about even money odds. Souza is technically the favorite, minus 110 to minus 115. Hill is minus 105 to minus 112. And then we have Jared Gordon versus Mashrabadan Ruziboev. Another Ruziboev. I don't know if this one is related to Nursultan Ruziboev. I do not know, actually. But anyways, he is a powerhouse grappler on a regional scene where he's crushing cans. The Central Asia scene. We've kind of seen what the guys coming off of there end up being forming. They're not bad. The guys from Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, they're doing good things. I mean, particularly PFL's oh, Brain, why are you doing this to me? Yag Shamirdov. That's who I'm thinking of. Anyways, but it's not a reliable scene to really break anything down. And Jared Gordon is a guy who is not generally beaten by just grapplers. I know he lost to Grant Dawson. But you look at his fights with Joe Selecki, Mark Madsen, Leandro Santos, pardon me. There is a Leonardo Silva as well. But Leonardo Santos, Chris Fitchgold, and Dan Moret, and then even the Paddy Pimblett fight that, let's be real, he won. And the judges screwed him. He doesn't lose to those guys. They're not blowouts by any means. They're not dominant victories. They're not faith-inspiring, but they're good enough. And yeah, he should decision Ruziboev. He's not really a finisher, so I'm going to say that it goes distance. Gordon is minus 325 to minus 355. Ruziboev is plus 250 to plus 280. I hope to be wrong. I mean, this is one of those fights, and there's another one coming up later where I do actually legitimately hope to be wrong, because it's not like Jared Gordon winning does anything. Ruziboev would be the future excitement, potentially. We'll see. I thought Oralby wouldn't be very good, and he ended up being pretty good. So there you go. Rafael Estevan versus Jesus Aguilar. Estevan, he's huge for 125. If you can't stop him from grappling with you, and Aguilar's anti-grappling defense is to pull guillotines, he will probably beat you. He will probably miss weight, and he should be at 135. But Aguilar pretty much clears out the bottom of 125. And Estevan might be the bottom of 135, but he is not the bottom of 125. So there you go. Aguilar, his game is just too reliant on big moments. It's a big puncher with a guillotine. And I don't know if I'm really going to ever pick that terribly much, but there you go. I've got Estevan by submission. Like I said, Aguilar will pull guillotines and end up in bad spots. I can see him getting his back taken at some point and choked out. Could also get TKO, but ground and pound. Estevan's willing to pound a dude's head in. So, there you go. Estevan minus 400 to minus 520. Aguilar plus 300 to plus 370. I looked if there was a line on Estevan missing weight, and I didn't find one, which is unfortunate because you know what? I feel like that might have actually been a decently high minus. Anyways, Gabriel Bonfim versus Chaos Williams. This is an underdog pick for me. I'm taking Chaos Williams, the plus 175 to plus 185 underdog. Bonfim minus 218 to minus 240. Gabriel and Ishmael Bonfim are two brothers who are actually stunningly not alike. We talked about this with Alexandre Topuria last week, and I've talked about it with Cole Miller, Micah Miller, the Diaz brothers, the Lozon brothers. It's not that they're the same, but you kind of get the same ideas, that they're trying to be the same fighter to a certain degree, but their mentalities and the slight differences and peculiarities of physicality are leading them down different paths. The Bonfims feel like they've just diverged right away. Where Ishmael is this technical, considered fighter, Gabriel is this, dude, I'm going to just murder this guy. I am going to grab his neck and squeeze for the life of me, and I am also going to throw dumb stuff as a striker. And I find the latter way less reliable. And I'm taking Williams because I think people underestimate Williams for not being flashy. He is a good volume striker. He's a good nuts and bolts pace fighter. And he's, decently athletic. He's not some subpar athlete. He's not an amazing athlete, but he hits reasonably hard. He is super durable. He has good cardio, despite being a jacked up dude. He is fast, explosive when he needs to be. And yeah, I just see him putting a pace on Bonfim and utilizing the fact that he does have a 77-inch reach. Bonfim's is only 62.5 or 72.5. And I think Bonfim is also really, really used to getting away with stuff at range that Williams can punish in similar ways to like what Nicholas Dalby was doing. So, yeah, I got Williams by decision. He doesn't have the finishing upside. But the guys that Bonfim has been beating and finishing are guys like Trevin Giles and other guys like that who are, with the exception of like Mooney or Lazez, like really finishable guys. So I don't trust his do or die mentality when it comes to fighting. But he is a minus 218 to minus 240 favorite. Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. I'm going to pick Elijah Smith on just hope. Smith is a good prospect. He's 22 years old. He transitions from striking to grappling pretty well, but he's got a really, really thin record that makes me kind of wonder things. He does seem to hit hard. He seems to be fast, explosive, etc. He has all those physical gifts, but like, I guess what it comes down to is I haven't really seen him in a fight. Like his Contender Series fight was the first time he really had somebody who I want to say got out of the first round. Am I right about that? Yeah, round one. Okay, no. He went to decision with Robert Trujillo, famous slap fighter. And he went to a third round with two guys. Okay, so he's been out of the first round, but like the records again are 0-0, 2-0, 2-1, 5-0. That's Trujillo, the slap fighter, 1-2, 8-1 Josh Walker, and 8-0 Aaron Tao. To be clear, if you look up Tao and Walker's records, they are thin, really thin. So like they were him. It was like a matchup of two guys who have put together a on paper numerically decent record and then faced each other and one came out the winner. And that was it. But basically I'm going with the faith here because Vince Morales he's a perfectly acceptable fighter in terms of an action fighter, but like he is the gatekeeper to 135, basically. Like that is his role. If you look at his UFC record, it's a lot of losing to Taylor Lapilus, losing to Miles Johns, Jonathan Martinez, Chris Gutierrez, Benito Lopez, Yadong Song, Domingo Pilarte. Like these are not bad fighters. These are all guys who had, reasonably long runs in the UFC. I want to say like Pilarte and Lopez are like the least like accomplished of the bunch. But like, Benito Lopez was fine. He had a great fight with Albert Morales. Anyone who hasn't seen that fight, go check that out. He also, he got finished the first round by Manny Bermudez and Mario Bautista. But still, those are good fighters. And then with Pilarte, he went on to have a winless. I forget, didn't he? No, he got knocked out by Journey Newsom, right? What's the original result on that? Yeah. But, he was a super tough and fun fighter. But, like, that's kind of the problem is, like, you're a super tough and fun fighter, but you don't have the elite physicality and you don't seem to have anything to really make people think twice. So, Elijah Smith, I'll say decision because Morales is a really tough guy. Smith is minus 142 to minus 165. Morales is plus 120 to plus 132. You know what? That's reasonable. Like there's a little simmer there. There's a little, he probably should win this fight, but there's a little bit of caution. Dontel Mays is going to beat Walter Walker because Walter Walker needs to out-grapple someone or be way better athlete than them, and he is neither. Mays is an ugly, formless fighter. Well, not formless, but like I think the joke was back in the day that he fights like a guy who learned how to fight off of Black Belt magazine. And I kind of stand by that. It's a terribly put together game, but like he is very durable and hard to out wrestle. And Walker is the favorite, minus 225 to minus 240. No idea why. I have Mays by decision. He's plus 175 to plus 195. Don't really want to bet on the fight though. And then Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Avila has all the physical tools to be a very good fighter. She's insanely strong. She's got decent, like, fearless reactions to, like, a firefight. And she's durable and she hits hard. But her game, minus her on-the-ground BJJ, is just, it doesn't exist. It's not there. It's wild power shots and not good wrestling. And her way of getting you down is to just kind of pick you up and deposit you on the mat. And it's not good. It's really frustrating because it's like with good coaching, this girl could be insane. I wish that she was 9-3, which is her record right now, and like 10 years younger. And was given to like a good gym, ATT, Extreme Couture, Fortis MMA, even like so many things. If she could just learn, but we're not getting that out of Outsiders Combat Club in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which does not have a single winning record outside of her on its roster. um, yeah. Suffice to say, I'm picking Cavalcanti. Cavalcanti has a good range game. She pushes a good pace. She's not a phenomenal athlete, but she's a fine athlete. Like there's nothing about her that instantly means she can't compete. There's just nothing about her that instantly means she can compete. But like she's got actually a decent technical game. She will work a good volume. And yeah, that's all there is to it. Decision Cavalcanti. She is a prohibitive favorite at minus 160, minus 649 to minus 750. Avila plus 450 to plus 510. And even at those odds, I don't want to pick Avila because I would feel bad if she actually won. Anyways, those are the fights. I hope you enjoyed. Check out the links down below for social medias, video game stuff, and the MMA simulator over in Discord. I am out. Happy tax season.